Welcome back! And we highlight the first American Speedway national champion in the modern era at the Costa Mesa Speedway back in 1969, in the summer of '69. That's Steve Bast. Steve was born on Christmas Day in 1951, and at the age of 14, he actually won the Coganville GP for the 50cc expert class. He was a good rider at the age of 14. 2 years later, and for the next 3 years, Steve went ahead and won the Westlake Village GP in the 500cc and 200cc class. In 1968, Steve started Speedway at a very young age at the Whiteman Stadium, and when the revival of Speedway started, and he started off slow just like anybody, and he continued to pick it up, and he got better and better and better. Papa bought him a Speedway bike, a JAP, and he shared it with his younger brother. And he did realize, but only 1 year later, he would be the first United States Speedway champion at the Costa Mesa Speedway. Another interesting fact that many of you may not know, that Steve actually was the first British League rider from America in the modern era. In 1970, he raced for the Wembley Lions. Steve also raced in 4 United States versus the World meets, and it was from 1974 to 1978, and Steve was a top point getter in those matches. Actually, I was at the last one, and here it is, the 1978 US versus the World. I was there and watched Steve Bast. Also, in 1972, they had a test match where the United States riders, the 6 of the top United States riders, they went to Jerusalem, Africa, and Europe to race for the Team America. And Steve, of course, was one of the top point getters there. In 1974, Steve won his second United States championship, his last championship as a national champion, and he won that with 13 points, and followed by a sexy Jeff Sexton with 12, and his younger brother Michael Bast with 10. Also, Steve won 6 California state championships from 69 to 75, and he told his younger brother Mike, "Go ahead and match me." And guess what? Mike went ahead and matched him also. When I was just a little kid, knee-high to a grasshopper, I used to watch in the pits, and I used to look at Steve Bast. And before the races, he was really fiery. He was like, "I'm gonna kill somebody." Steve was really into it. I mean, that guy had so much fire, it was just crazy. And Steve Bast was the ultimate competitor. And then later, when I was racing Speedway, I was watching him ride one time, and his rear wheel fell off, the tire fell off, and he kept riding away. He won that race. I was like, I've never seen a guy riding a Speedway bike on the rim with no tire. Honestly, some of you may disagree, but I think Steve Bast was the first bad boy of American Speedway. He was just a tough dude, and he was good, but he was just an all or nothing kind of guy. When Steve was on, I mean, that guy was on. He could ride. He was unbeatable. When Steve, and actually more nights than not, Steve was on. That guy was a crazy good rider. I mean, he could ride the pole, he could ride the outside, he'd ride anywhere. He'd pass the guy, he would do anything to win the race. Steve Bast was just a really good guy off the track. I mean, he helped his friends. He just did all this nice stuff for people. He was basically a really good human being. But when you got him close to the racetrack, he put on his race face. Steve Bast was a gifted and highly skilled rider. He just was only about one thing, and he was all about one thing, and that was winning. I must admit that the Bast brothers were not the most popular riders of all, but when they got on the track, like I say, they were all about one thing, and that was to win that race. Sadly, on October 30th, 2007, Steve passed away from kidney and heart failure in Auburn, California at the age of 55. Steve Bast will always be remembered as a gentle guy, a good guy, and he was a joker. He liked to have a lot of fun, and he just was missed by all the people who knew him. Steve moved to Auburn, California in 1977 and worked as a metal fabricator for the Bast Brothers welding shop. He went ahead and he loved motorcycles, working on them. He liked gardening and he liked fishing too. Steve Bast is missed by all who knew him, and he's missed by many who never met him. Sadly, after Steve passed away in 2007, many poured their sympathy to the Bast family, and we're going to go ahead and read a few of those right now. Kevin Anderson said, "Although you have no idea who I am, nor does Steve, I want you to know that one of my greatest childhood memories in the 70s was going to Cal Expo Speedway to watch one of my favorite riders, and that was Steve Bast. He would fly around the track. He was fearless. He was exciting to watch. He did magic on his bike. I was just a single person in the crowd, and I know that there was thousands like me that couldn't wait for the races every Saturday night at the Speedway at Cal Expo, but I am sorry for your loss, and thank Steve for some of the greatest childhood memories." And the next letter is from Ryan Bast. Ryan has to say, "Uncle Steve, thank you for being an inspiration in my business and your passion for motorcycles. I miss you and look forward to riding alongside of you in heaven. I love you." Michael Bast and Deanne Bast had a letter to say to Steve. "We share our tears for your loss, but at the same time, we have a smile upon our faces as we picture you fishing in heaven, in those beautiful streams, and also riding those beautiful Speedway bikes of gold." And the last letter comes from Steve Bast's son, also named Steve Bast. And he says, "It won't be the same without you, Dad. I miss you already." Steve Bast, American Speedway superstar. He was a brother, he was a son, and he was a father. And he was beloved by all those who knew him and those that did not know him as well also. And we want to thank you, Steve Bast, for all the memories you gave us. We appreciate everything. And may your soul rest in heaven, Steve Bast.